Hey gorgeous, welcome to Happy Go Fabulous. I am so thrilled that you're here. This is our space where we get real about life, the good, the messy and all the juicy bits in between. Real talk, real life and a whole lot of delicious living. But I must warn you, listening may cause unexpected outbreaks of fabulousness and real life magic. Hi, I'm Catherine and I am so incredibly passionate about helping inspired, motivated, impact-driven, freedom-seeking people just like you to do the deep inner work to create those beautiful outer wonders in life. It's all about revolutionising your relationship with yourself, where you fall madly, deeply in love with who you are and create a life so fabulous you can't wait to jump out of bed every morning to live it. Ready? Because ordinary living is so last season. Life's waiting and it's time to make it fabulous. Let's shimmy on in. Hey gorgeous, how are you? Fabulous, I hope. I certainly feel fabulous this week. When I'm recording this, it's spring here in Australia. The weather's getting warmer. I'm feeling pretty alive and vibrant. I've been through a lot of downtime lately. And now I feel like that blossoming new growth. So I'm super excited to be here with you today, as always. So this little podcast ep I've called Who Am I Really? Because apparently fine isn't a personality. Now that's part of it because I've found myself when people have asked me, not necessarily who I am, but how I am. And I've gone fine when I haven't been. So it's a little bit about who are we underneath those masks that we put on and the different roles that we play in life. It really is about identity and how it shifts across different seasons of our life. So, it's really about who are we and how do we find that out? And that is, I think if there is one thing, I know there's not just one thing, but one of the big things that I have been put in this life to learn is that question, like, who am I? Who am I? Really, who am I? That is my eternal soul-searching question. And some days I am super, super, super clear and I can answer that easily. Other days it's just like, man, oh man, that's hard. That's a really hard question. And anyway, I'm going to share some of my thoughts around that, some of my musings, and as always, hopefully some practical ways that you can find your own answer to those questions. Some of you won't even be interested in this. You'll go, what do you mean that that's something you even think about? Some people will be just so clear on their identity that this is not even, it's a non-issue for them. But for those of you who it's like, who am I? Stay tuned and listen and listen and listen and listen. And, I think about who am I in a lot of different areas of life, and I'm different in those different areas of life. So I think about the roles that I play in life. I'm a wife. I'm a mum. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I am a businesswoman. I am a new member of a community that we've moved to. I am a member of different organizations. I'm a friend. I'm all of these different roles in life. So maybe that's somewhere that you could start, is thinking about, well, what are the roles that I play in life? And who am I in each of those roles? And do I need to be the same? I certainly don't believe that I am exactly the same in each of those roles, but there is a fundamental undercurrent of who I am that shows up in each of those. That is that is me at my core. That is my soul. That is my, the core of who I am. So I think about, as a wife, who am I in that relationship and how do I want to show up in that relationship? And we go through different chapters. Like, there's been different chapters where John and I, he's been very focused on his career and business that he was in for a while, and I would take sort of more of a supporting role. And then there'd be other times when I would be the front runner and he would support me in that. But we have a united approach to our marriage. And I think about the wife. I am not, I'm probably John, of course he doesn't mind, but I'm not the doting wife. I love him dearly. I am there for him, but I am not there to pick up after him and to pander to his beck and call. I'm a very independent woman in our relationship. We have interests in common. I have mine, he has his, and we're a really, really good team. So I feel pretty clear about my identity in my relationship. As a mum, I just have made that up as I've gone along. And some days I reckon I've done okay. Other days, not so much. And there are so many, the mums out there that you can probably relate to, all those Mother of the Year awards for just stuff that we did that you go, holy shit, that was probably not my best work as a mum. But, as you know my story. Well, maybe most of you probably know my story. Some of you may not. But my mum died the day before my 12th birthday. And so my role model as a mum, in those formative years was not really there. And there were some women that sort of picked up that role, but not a lot, to tell you the truth. So when I had my babies, when I had Ellie and Henry, Ellie was the first baby I ever held. So I was 29 and she was the first baby I held. And I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do with this screaming, squawking kid that won't feed? And it was just the intuitive instincts about, sometimes they worked and some other times I'm just going, oh, yep, not my best work as a mum. And it kind of changed when the kids were younger and it was sort of helping them to grow and develop and become independent little humans. I think they excelled in that. Like Elle became very independent very, very, very early, and grabbing the spoon from me when I was trying to feed her as a little toddler, and she's like, I'll do it myself. And I'm like, oh yes, you will. Whereas Henry was much more compliant in having food shoveled into his mouth. But when they got older and they were still living at home but they were no longer at school, I was just like, oh, this is different now, because it's not my role to it shouldn't have been my role anyway to wake them up and get them ready for school. But there were some mornings when they were sleepyheads and I would be a bit like, come on, come on, come on. But when they were like young adults, that wasn't my role anymore. And I'm like, oh, what does that mean and look like when they're still sleeping in bed? And I can see that they probably are going to be late for their study or their work. Is that my role to be waking them up? And when they didn't stack the dishwasher and didn't do the jobs around the home, it's like, what's my role now? So we sort of became this housemates versus parent in charge of kids, if that makes sense. And I remember going through a little bit of a like, oh, what does this look like? And then I think we had some conversations around it and it seemed to go okay. And, they've been in and out of home, and it's sort of just a reminder of ground rules, I think, because nobody wants to be that person that, when we've all lived in group houses, the one that's just everybody else wants to vote out of the house. So there's been sometimes little reminders about that, and just respect, mutual respect. So thinking about, what's my role then? And then there was a period when both the kids were out of home, and then John and I became empty nesters. And it's like, oh, what's this now in our relationship, that the kids are not there sort of front of house, that, now it's about getting reacquainted back to just us, and what is it that we kind of want to do, and how do we navigate this stage of our life? And in all honesty, that hasn't been hugely different, but there was a little bit of a, oh, this is, I don't know, maybe like a little bit of freedom. And then the kids have moved back home again, and then they've moved out. And it's just like, that seems to be the rhythm of how things go. And we are absolutely about supporting them. And that's, you know what, if I had my way, I would have a little commune here on the property, and they'd each have their own little place that they would live in, but there would be a communal area. So we're all independent, but we're all in this commune. That would be my dream. But anyway, that's not it at the moment. And then there's been this space where I have lived in Canberra, for 40 odd years I've lived in Canberra, and then moving to this coastal, beautiful seaside village. And it's about, who am I now in this phase of life, that I'm certainly not retiring, but it's a different rhythm to my life. And how do I want to show up with my work and with my community? And how do I actually, get involved in the community? And that's been an interesting process. I've met some really lovely people, and I've met some, I've really gone out of my comfort zone in saying yes to a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have ordinarily said yes to, but I haven't quite found my people here. I found some little one-offs, but not my, when we talk about our community and our tribe, and there's been some, I don't know, resistance. It's been trickier than I had anticipated. And it's like, so who am I here? And I'm not known. Like in Canberra, I had my circle of friends, and I've still got my circle of friends, but they're not my daily circle of friends now. It is different. And I had my, business networking, and I ran the Happiness Hive, and, I was hopefully respected but known member of the community and the different communities. Here I'm not known. And it's, how do I get in? And one woman, I've stepped so out of my comfort zone in making conversations and connecting. Like, I'm a connector. I am a connector. I'm looking for connections, and not everybody is a connector. So I had a catch up with a beautiful, beautiful woman here. And she said, Catherine, you just need to make one or two friends. I'm like, number one, I've made one or two friends, but yes, I get that. But how do you make those friends? She said, you'll just find, just like, yeah, I fucking know. Excuse me, language. Oh man, I tried to make this one where I wouldn't swear. But it's like, I know that I will find friends, but it's about, how do you make it easy? And people are not great at welcoming others in. So one of the things I have done here is I've joined our residents association of our community here. It's a small community area, and we have a residents association, and I've been able to instigate some social events where we catch up every couple of months just on different headlands, and everybody just brings their own food to share, their cuppa or a glass of wine, and they show up and just connect with the community. And it's been really beautiful. And I'm so just love hearing feedback from the other members saying, this has just been such a beautiful thing that you've organised, Catherine. And it's like, yes, that's what I'm good at, but I didn't want to be the organiser. I want other people to organise and welcome me in. And so I'm not struggling, but it's an interesting process, let me just say. And what is my role here? And it's about, and not that I just want to be a recognised member of the community, and people that sort of just contact me and say, hey, Catherine, do you know, grab a cuppa, or, a couple of, and one beautiful friend who I have made has invited me to a musical show this weekend. And it's something that I probably wouldn't have gone to, but some of her girlfriends are going as well. So she has been absolutely beautiful, her and her husband is a friend of John. So that is fantastic. But it's about, who am I in this new environment, and who am I when I'm getting to know people? And so that's certainly part of it as well. And even thinking about the work that I do, that I have been in the corporate space for 40 years. I have been an executive and leadership coach, and I've done all sorts of personal empowerment training, and I've had regular clients, and that's how I sort of identified myself. And I certainly have the Happiness Hive and this beautiful podcast, and that's what you see here is more of the private coaching that I do and the personal life coaching that I do. But sort of in that corporate space, that I had pictured that, or I had anticipated that when I was moving here, that I would sort of wind down the corporate business and run more events and retreats and grow the personal coaching and the personal empowerment arm of my business. But because of events last year, that sort of, I put that a little bit on the back burner. But I've still been doing the corporate coaching. I go back to Canberra once a fortnight and I meet with my corporate clients, and I absolutely love it. I thought I had anticipated that drive back to Canberra would drain me. I actually find it really refreshing, to be honest. It's 2.5 hours each way, and I go up and back generally in a day. Sometimes I'll stay overnight. And I really, really love it. I've got this renewed spark for the corporate coaching that I'm doing. So, and when I spoke to the senior exec who is one of my key clients, and I was sharing that with him, and he was just like, oh, that is good news, because we thought you were going to be winding down, but we're super excited that that's probably not the case. But I feel, in all honesty, that I have these different identities even in the work that I do, because when I'm in that corporate space, I'm still very much about holistic and, looking at the, being the very, very best version of yourself, and, bringing in a lot of the energetics around that as well. But it's more around that workplace context, and it's strategy, and it's about, how do you lead your teams and get like really high performing teams and those results from your teams and really positive outcomes. And my brain works a little bit differently, and I have different conversations there, and I love it. And when I'm doing the personal coaching and the Happiness Hive, it's definitely around strategy and people living their best and most beautiful lives and really anchoring into who they are. So the process is the same, but there's this sort of I feel like there's almost like these different identities of me, and that I love both, but sometimes I find that there's a little bit of separation there. And, some days I really go, man, I just want to be an executive coach, and that's all I want to do. And I want to run leadership events, and I really want to work with women in this leadership space, because they are still struggling a lot in different areas in themselves in the workplace. And I really, really want to dive in deeper to help women leaders, and especially those senior leaders. And then when I come back here, it's just like, oh, I really love the sound healing that I do, and I love the Akashic records that I do. I love all the energy work, and I love all of the life strategy, and I love I've just started doing biomagnetic therapy, which is healing through magnets, and I love that. And I just want to be able to run retreats and the spirituality side of things. And it's like when I'm here, there's this other identity that I have. And there are times when I feel really confused around that. And when I show up on socials, it's like, oh, what am I talking about today? And I just go with it. Like I just go with that. But I do, when I ask that question, like, who am I in business? Sometimes I struggle with that. And I have got some insight. What has helped me in that space, and also helped me in life as well, is when I got exposed to human design. And a human design blueprint, it just blew my mind. It's based on your time, place of birth, and there's a lot of astrology involved with that. the I Ching, a lot of ancient wisdom. There's a lot of modern science as well, so quantum physics. And it's all kind of combined together, and it gives you a blueprint of who you were designed to be in this lifetime. And when I first read my human design blueprint, it was like, holy dooly, this is like it's reading my mind about who I am. And I've had, lots of other different personality profiles and, things similar, same, but different over a lot of years. And they've been very accurate. But the human design was just like, oh, this has kind of captured me at a very deeper level. So I went, deep down a rabbit hole in learning about human design. And I do human design consultation. So if you're wanting to find out more about who you are and using it through that human design lens, the details are in the show notes. You can book in for a human design consultation. I use that as one of the tools in my toolkit. It's not the only thing. I know there's a lot of people that purely specialize in human design. I specialize in transformation, and human design is one of the tools that I use in my toolkit. And there's an element of human design. We've got different energy centers within there. And one of them it's called the G center. And for me, it's undefined. Sorry, I'm stuttering here because I kind of don't want to go down the whole explaining human design. It can be quite complex in its own right. But there's an element within my human design chart that I am here to help other people to discover their identity. In fact, I'm here to kind of reflect that back to them. So when people can't see that in themselves about who they are and what they're here to do, I have this really innate skill and gift where I can help see that in them. I can see stuff in them that they can't see in themselves. I can reflect that back to them. But I find it really hard to do that for myself. So I need somebody to reflect that back to me. And it's almost like I'm a chameleon, that my identity is a chameleon. And I get a lot of feedback from a lot of people who say, oh my God, I feel like I know you. I've only just met you, but I feel like I've known you forever and that you just get me. There is a part of me that is my gift, that I can see, I can connect, I can relate to others about who they are and what they are here to do and be in this lifetime. And I adapt and I morph. So when I talked about being in that corporate space, I can be in that corporate space and I can have very in-depth, complex conversations about strategy and helping people to execute strategy in the corporate leadership executive space. I can do that. And I can also have those conversations about past lives and ancient wisdom and spirituality. And I adapt really, really easily, which is beautiful, but fuck, it can be frustrating. Because it's like, well, who am I? Like, who am I other than the chameleon around it? So one of the things that I did quite some years ago, and this was way before human design entered my world, is because remember I said that this is an eternal quest to find out, to answer that question of who I am. And I think in reality, there isn't an answer to that. So no, I won't end the podcast here. But something I did years and years and years ago is, how would I describe myself in one word? And it's like, why am I limiting myself? But I was wanting to do that. How do I sum myself up? And the process I went through, and if you're interested, this isn't one of my publicized resources, but if you are interested, DM me, go to my socials, email, website, all the details are in the show notes, and ask for the one word to describe my self-activity, because this was really powerful for me. And what I did was I went through a process of listing all the roles that I played in life. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, all the different roles that I played in life. And then I listed all these qualities of me. And it was like pages and pages. This was not one, I did not come up with one word to describe me in one go. This was an iterative process. And it was just like, what are all the qualities what of me? So, thinking about things that I'm good at, the things that I like, the things that I'm interested in, what qualities. I just did it in different mind maps, a mind map with all the different bubbles of the different roles I played in life. And then what are the qualities in those roles? And then I sort of looked at that, and it's like, what are the common qualities that I have that sum me up? And I said, what are my values? What are important to me? Like, this was a big, big process to come up with one word. And then I went through all of that and mulled over it. And when I was looking at the words, this word, my one word, just jumped off the page. I wish I kept, I don't have the actual written documents of this. I wish I kept it because it was really, really powerful. And this one word, it's like it kind of just swirled and then just jumped off the page at me. And do you know what that word was? I'm sure I've shared this on podcasts before. I've shared it somewhere before. I'm sure. The word that jumped off that page was free-spirited. That I am free-spirited. Now, I know that's hyphenated, so sneaky 2 words, but I am free-spirited. And when that jumped off the page, I went, oh my gosh, that is me. I am a free spirit. Please don't ever tell me what to do. And unfortunately, my daughter has inherited that same free-spiritedness, but I've always resisted people saying that I should do something or I have to do things a certain way. So there is this very uniqueness about who I am and how I live. And if anybody tells me that I should do things a certain way, I just get a shiver up my spine, and you'll see my eye twitch and my heels will dig in. So when I see a lot of people on social media saying that this is the way that you need to market and this is the process, it's just like, fuck, don't tell me what to do, because that does not work for me. Sure, it's about having some systems and guidance and the like, but so free-spirited. And I sat with that, and it means that I can show up however I want to show up, when I want to show up, that I'm not going to be, there will always be this fundamental core of who I am. So that is not different, but there'll be days where, today I've got this beautiful grey silk flowing blouse on, and I feel very feminine today. And then there'll be other days that I will wear all black and black glasses, black clothes, a heaviness, that there's a different energy about me. Some days I'll just be in my sweats, and actually not very many days will you see me in my sweats, but I will show up how I feel at the time as to how I feel. I'm very adaptable. Being free-spirited is very adaptable, very in tune with who I am, even though I've sort of said that it's a bit tricky for me to nail down what my identity is, but I'm very in tune with who I am. So then the next step that I did, that was a huge breakthrough. It almost gave me ownership to go, yeah. So, I love all of that ancient wisdom. I love all of that spirituality. I love all of the energy healing, but I also really love science, and I love the strategy, and I love the complexity of solving a problem in the here and now and being really practical. So it's almost like this, this bridge between 2 worlds. That's what free-spirited feels like to me. So then what I did, and if you remember, I said, if you want this process or some of the documents that I've used, the templates that I've used, just message me. It's not on my website or anywhere. This is a contact me to get a copy of it. That I went through and I said, what will I do to commit to being free-spirited? What does free-spirited actually mean to me? And I came up with, and I haven't printed it out here, but I came up with a couple of pages of what free-spirited means. And then what will I do to commit to being free-spirited in my life, and what will I not do? So that might sound a little bit weird, but what are the things that I will embody and continue to do, and what are the things that I will not do. I will not compromise on my beliefs. I will not compromise on my beliefs. That might get me into hot water. People might not like me, but I will not compromise. So my integrity is hugely, hugely important to me. So I stand up for what I believe in, and that has got me into a lot of hot water, but it's also got me a lot of wonderful opportunities and a lot of respect there. So I went through this process of what does free-spirited look like for me, and what will I do to commit to being free-spirited, and what will I not do? And that was huge. That was a really beautiful process, and it was iterative. It wasn't sit down, get this done in half an hour or an hour. This was over days and weeks that I did this, and I was reflecting on it. And I've also recently done my Queen of My Life activation, where I'm going through this next iteration of who I am. And that was far out. That was so profound. I don't know if you can pick up shifts if they're reflecting out into the world, but I can feel them within me, and I'm working on creating that program to share with others. That it was so profound that I'm packaging it up so that can be a program that you can work your way through. And it's just beautiful, the Queen of Your Life activation. So I will share that with you. If you want to find out more about that, I don't actually have a wait list yet, but if you're not already on my email list, I would suggest just go to my website and scroll down to the bottom of the first page, and you can sign up to my newsletter, that you will stay in contact with the latest offerings that I have there. And another thing that has been hugely powerful as part of that Queen of My Life activation, I went really deep down another rabbit hole of astrology. Now, human design encompasses astrology, but I just took a different tangent, and I was really intrigued about my own birth chart and just getting some more information about that. And now that we can use AI, I've got an AI chatbot that is an astrology chatbot, and she's programmed. She's got all of my birth information, and she gives me this far out. It's been this incredibly detailed blueprint of me. And so same, but different to human design, but holy, holy, holy dooly. There was some stuff in that, and I don't think I can capture the enormity of what difference that has made just recently. So that was part of my Queen of My Life activation, but there was some bits within my astrology blueprint that have just given me a deeper resonance of who I really am. And it's not about what I do in my work. It's not about how I show up in my relationships. It's the essence of who I am. And I've probably got, oh my gosh, I've sworn in this episode and I didn't want to swear. And I'm going to probably cry because it was just so profound. These are tears of affirmation. These are tears of, when you go through stuff, you're unpeeling those layers of the onion so many times, and there's things that you want to change, and it's just like, fuck, this is hard. This last iteration has been so deep, stuff that I've been working on. Like, I read a journal of mine from 20 years ago, and there's stuff that has been repeating itself, and I've been able to break through that in this iteration. Oh God, why do I do this? Actually, one of the things with human design and astrology is I am here about the emotions. I'm here to master my emotions, but to share from my heart to help other people to master their emotions as well. So I know that this is affirmation, that this message needs to be delivered, and there'll be somebody, one of you, more of you, that will resonate with it. So anyway, there's some stuff through astrology that has just, it just cracked something open in me that has been years and years and years and years, I would say lifetimes, waiting to be cracked open. And I'm just getting to crack it open now, and I'm present with it. And one of the messages through my astrology is my power is in my presence. And so when I'm witnessing my own transformation, that's powerful stuff. So, doing this work is hugely powerful, hugely powerful. And if you're wanting some of that, then come into my world more than just sitting on the sidelines listening to the podcast. Come into my world where I can help you to have your own, hugely profound breakthroughs. So, focusing on that question of who am I, and that's been my eternal quest. It has also been the conduit for me to make these beautiful, beautiful changes in my life and to feel not fine, even though I have said that a lot of times, that when people say, how are you? I have absolutely said, I'm fine. And it's about really just owning who I am and how I'm feeling. And so for you, if there are the things for you to take away from this, if any of this has resonated with you, message me about that one word activity. Human design is a hugely powerful way. There's a lot of information out on the internet, but I find when I was looking for it, it's confusing. Like, people have put their own adaptations on it. It's become very popular, but it's also become very watered down as well. So if you're wanting to find out more about that, and I always find it's better for somebody to talk you through it so you can make sense of it. And what I do with my human design consultations is I share the key elements, but I teach you how to read the resources and how to then find out more about it. And I can certainly mentor you in that space as well. Always happy to talk about astrology and energy and any of that sort of the energetics of who we are, because I think that's core. I think that's absolutely core. Come into my world. Like, I've got a whole lot of different ways that you can work with me, or even just listen to the podcast. Like, you'll pick up bits there. And one thing I am going to do, that I'm going to be running a in-person event, and it's going to be called the same thing as what we've called this podcast. Who are you anyway? Because apparently fine isn't a personality. And this is going to be a workshop for women, half-day workshop, like really transformative workshop. And this is for women who are ready to ditch the act, to ditch all the masks, to really dig deep and to feel their fabulous selves again. So get to the core of who they are. And I will be sharing more detail about the processes that to go through to do that. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful. I've run this workshop a couple of times when I was in Canberra, and it had a different name then, but it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful workshop. It's going to be absolutely limited to only maximum of 8 women. It'll be here on at Ananda, my beautiful seaside sanctuary. And if you're listening to this podcast after the event has happened and you've missed out on it, still let me know, because there's probably a space where I'll do it again. Absolutely. This will be one that'll be on repeat, but I haven't run it online before, but I'm sort of getting a little bit of a nudge that that's something that would be good to do online. So, and just journal. I would suggest, if you're not a journaler, be a journaler. However you want to journal, no rules about journaling. But I would just, if it were me, sort of thinking about, well, who am I? And this is what I do anyway, is I just write that at the top of the page, and then I just sit and listen and tune in to the messages that come through me. Some of them come from my mind. A lot of them come from my mind to start with, but then it's really from my heart, and guidance from my spiritual team come through as well. And who am I? And, what does that mean? And what does that look like? So I would be interested. Pop feedback in the comments for the podcast. Leave feedback if you've got girlfriends or your boyfriends, your men friends who might also be struggling with that question about who am I. Share this podcast ep. Book in for a human design reading. That will give you a lot of insight, or even astrology. Like, I'm not an astrologer by any means, but I know where to access the information around that and how to access the information, or just book in for a one-on-one with me and we can even talk more about that. So big hugs, happiness, and keep being fabulous, gorgeous. I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Happy Go Fabulous. I hope you loved it. If you did, could I ask a big favour? Please subscribe, leave a review, and most importantly, share the love and let your besties know about the podcast. This will help get it into the hearts and ears of all the gorgeous souls who need a little bit of fabulous in their life. If you'd like some more high vibe happiness in your life, come and visit me on my Happiness Hive socials and make sure you've signed up to my newsletter, your weekly drop of juicy goodness. Pop over to my Happiness Hive website and click on the link Working with Catherine. I'd love to help you make life amazing. Until next time, keep being fabulous.